Oh, hey, hoy. It's Trevor again. And I believe I just counted before starting this. This is the 13th time I've done this. This is was supposed to be just three or four of these weekly live streams until the launch happened. Here we are, week 13, but this might be the second last one. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit better. If the sound is good, let me know in the chat. I'll just assume it's all going good. Why not? Let's hope for it. And I'm getting the thumbs up from the fiance. Perfect. Thank you, Natalie. Great. Many of you have watched these before, so I'll go quick through these. This is who am I? Who am I? I'm Trevor, and I'm doing a weekly live stream about the upcoming Artemis II mission. We're going back to the moon, and a Canadian is going to the moon, around the moon, Artemis II. So this is a weekly live stream I've been doing every Monday since January 5th. January 5th, and I'm going to do it until it launches. I did not think, if you asked me in January if I would have kept up doing that until late March, early April, wouldn't have believed you, but here we are. So each show I do two topics and 15 minutes each, and then I do 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. So if you got a burning question, you can put it in the chat or wait until the end, and I'll bring it up on the screen. I can try to answer it for you. And I try to do this from a Canadian perspective. You know, we're a small people. Let's just focus on ourselves for a little bit. Small people? What am I saying? All right, who am I? My name's Trevor. I run Plateau Astro here in Montreal, and I do school presentations. I did one yesterday, last night, in fact, teaching about the phases of the moon. So if you need a presentation at your school, get in touch. If you need a mobile planetarium, which I'm doing tomorrow, 2 days in a row, I can bring you a big old inflatable dome into your school. And we look at the stars and the constellations and the planets. Really fun, really fun. Kids love it. And this Saturday, I'm actually doing a public show. Not for a school, but if you're in the public, and you probably are, you can come this Saturday. I'll talk a bit about that at the end. I also used to work at the CSA, Canadian Space Agency. And this logo, you see, this will come up in a second. But first, I used to sometimes see this guy hang around the bureau, okay? Jeremy Hansen, the guy who's going to the moon. So, tonight, we got two topics, as always. And tonight, the topics are how they're going to deal with emergencies and how they're going to deal with space sickness. And what I mean by this is not like radiation, but like literally like vomiting in weightlessness. How are they going to adapt to that? So these are the two topics, and we're going to get that in a second. But before that, one last housekeeping. Last week, as I have been doing for the last few weeks, a contest. I gave this patch away. This is a Canadarm patch, old vintage retro looking patch, and I'm probably wearing the same shirt that I'm wearing right now. I only have two sweaters, so yeah. And the winner of it was a loyal listener, Allison. So hopefully that I shipped it off to you. Hopefully that's arrived to you here or there, which is where you are, not here. This week we got a different patch, and this week's patch is this, or if you like it in slide form, here, right here. And behind this is actually the Artemis II rocket. So this is the very same patch that I brought down to Florida. You can win this, and the way you're going to win, you go to this URL. You can open up in a different tab right now if you want, so you may want to be ready, but I'll give you a code after I do my two topics, just before Q&A, put that in, and then I do a draw. Usually about 15 or 20 people have been submitting, so you got a pretty good chance. Pretty good. So I'll give you the secret code a little bit later. And the last thing is we have a hockey game tonight. Habs are playing Carolina Hurricanes. The score was, just before I looked, it was 2-1 Hurricanes. They're going to start the second period in a second here. So we still got time. We still got time to blow them over. Okay, let's do an update. What has happened with the mission? Okay, they have rolled out the rocket to the launch pad. They did it at middle of the night, and this looked very dramatic. Okay, nice and lit up like this. Looks like some sort of Batman thing going on here. It's at the launch pad now, and they're getting it ready. The crew is in quarantine and have been for almost a week now. And they have to do 2 weeks of quarantine before they can fly. So the families and stuff, they're all in quarantine. And the launch dates are still this, the first week of April. April 1 to April 6. And I was thinking about this today. April 1st is April Fool's, which is Wednesday. And then Thursday is Holy Thursday. And then Friday is Good Friday. And then the Saturday is Holy Saturday. And then Sunday is Easter Sunday. And the Monday is Easter Monday. Every day that they're going to launch in the first week, some sort of holiday. And April Fool's is basically a holiday. April 30th is kind of the next window, but this is what the calendar looks like. So this is they're holding to this right now. So they could fly off Easter weekend. All right, and here's the times for it and stuff like that. But it's kind of small, but I'll link this a little bit later. Okay, let's get into the topics. Let's take a drink of water and get into this. So the first topic tonight is dealing with emergencies. So there's a few different emergencies. A lot of things could happen on this, but they've thought of a lot of them. I've got a couple here that I'm going to go through. So we're going to talk about escaping. How do we get out of the capsule if there's a problem? What if there's a fire on in the capsule? How do they deal with that? What if they're in the middle of space on their way to the moon or coming back from the moon and there's a hole in the spacecraft? How do they deal with that? And there's air leaking and stuff like that. How do they deal with that? What if they land in the wrong spot on Earth? They're supposed to land in the Pacific Ocean. What if they land somewhere else? How do they deal with that? And what if there is a medical emergency? Somebody breaks a tooth or something like that. What do they do? So I'm going to go through these and show you the kind of the interesting scenarios that they have to sort of deal with here. Interesting. Hopefully they never have to deal with these, but they've thought of them. Let's talk about escape. Okay. So let's pretend it's April 1st. Everything's gone to plan. They have put their spacesuits on. They're at the top of the rocket here, and they're inside the capsule. Okay, they're all ready. They're all strapped in. I'll see if I can make this a little bit bigger for you here. Okay, I'll just talk. All right, and they're at the top of the rocket. Okay, they're on top of it, and then they get this alert: red alert, red alert, and they have to leave the capsule. Okay, what do they do? Okay, if it is more than 5 minutes before launch, okay, let's say it's 10 minutes before launch, okay, and they need to escape. There's different things they have to do at different times. So for this one, if they got more than 5 minutes, they're actually going to open up the hatch. Now, this is not them, and it's looking like the people are pretty smiley here, okay? This is not them. They'll open up the hatch, and then they're going to go outside. They're going to go across the crew access arm, walk out, and they have these big baskets. These big baskets, okay, look like this. Okay, almost looks like a gondola sort of thing. I think that's the right word. Okay, they go into these baskets, and they get inside of them. And these baskets, they go from the top of the rocket all the way down to the ground like this. So they hurry down, and the baskets go down to the ground. And then there's like an armored vehicle that they get into. An armored vehicle, I'm not sure if there's somebody in there or if they stay there. And if the rocket explodes, God forbid, they'd be safe in those armored vehicles. So if there's more than 5 minutes before launch, this is what they would do. Take a swinging ride back down to the ground and get away from there. If there is less than 5 minutes before launch, they have to arm something called the orbital, what's it called? Flight termination? Nope, that's not it. Ejection system. I'm forgetting the name of it, but I'll explain what it is. Here's the rocket, okay? And where the crew is, they are at the very, very tippy top of this, right there, okay? And the top of this rocket, there's something called the launch abort system. Okay, so and somebody said those baskets are featured in Men in Black 3. Oh, somebody, my fiance. Yes, of course Natalie would know this fact. So there's at the very, very top of the rocket, there's this thing called the launch abort system, and I'll zoom in a little bit more here. Okay, and so sort of in that cone sort of shape area. Okay, that's where they are. Okay, there's the crew capsule right there, and right here. You can notice there's these little rockets looking things right there. Okay. And I have a video for this that I'm going to show right here. And this is from a test from like 15 years ago or so, but it shows what is actually going to be going on. So here it is. So you see people moving. You get a sense of size of this thing here. Okay, you can see those sort of little rockets there. And I think there should be some audio here in a second.
3, 2, 1, launch, launch, launch. Stop.
And so this is done when they're still on the launch pad, and this would lift them away.
Started.
And those rockets move them up, and then
Reorientation
twist.
complete.
They said
Apogee.
reorientation complete. And the crew are inside of there. Not this is a test; they're not in there, of course. But this is what would happen.
FBC jettison.
They would jettison the capsule,
Drug deploy.
and then they would open these parachutes at the right time, and this would splash down in the ocean, just off the coast of Florida.
Landing.
They're doing this in a desert somewhere, I don't know where, but in real life, this is they would be doing this in Florida. So that rocket system, that's what pulls them away. So that would happen just a few minutes before launch. Looks crazy. Looks very rough to be in there, but there's a mechanism that would get them safely away. If it was during launch that this was happening, it's a bit of a different setup. And I have a different video that they did for this a few years ago. I think 2019 or something like that. They did this. So I got another video right here. So this is pretending that they've already launched, okay, and they had to eject for some reason. This is what it would look like. Now, the video you're going to see, it's not the full rocket, it's sort of just a simulation of it, but I'll show you what that looks like right now. So it's going up.
15,000 feet. Mach 1. Mach 1.1.
And those same rockets are going to pull them away
10 seconds. We
right
will
about
see the
now.
abort.
Abort initiation.
Pulls them away.
Pyros 1 and 2 discharge both sides.
Good chamber pressure.
Good control.
So the majority of the rocket might actually be, I don't know, on fire or exploding or something like this. This would pull them away safely.
Reorientation.
And then you're going to see it's reorienting, spinning it around. And then this is going to pop off. You'll see it here in a second. So they're inside there. That pops off.
Pyros
And then you
3
can see the
and 4
capsule right
discharge
there.
both sides.
Squib power enabled.
And this, same sort of deal. Eventually they would open the parachutes, and then this would go down and splash down in the ocean.
There goes
So,
the LAS.
there's different ways that they can leave if there is an emergency they have to do like that. So hopefully that doesn't have to happen, but they have thought of that system. Okay, so that's if they have to escape. All right. What if there's a fire? What if there's a fire? Some of these are going to be shorter. Those are a little bit dramatic and a little bit long. This one. What if there's a fire? If you look here and if you sort of squint at the very, very, very back, you can see that there is a red fire extinguisher back there. And they actually do have a fire extinguisher there in the spacecraft. I think there's only been one time they've ever had to use a fire extinguisher in space on the Russian Mir space station, but they do have it if that is the case. Okay, that's a quick one. What if there's a hole in the spacecraft? Okay, so let's say they've gone successfully into space. They've orbited around the Earth once, and they're on their way to the moon. And then, they're out towards the moon. They're orbiting it. They're flying around it, rather. And then there is somehow a leak in the spacecraft. They're all by themselves. They can't dock or anything with another spacecraft or anything like that. How do they survive this? What if there's oxygen leaking? What do they do? This is where those orange spacesuits come into play. So presumably at this time, they're not in their spacesuits, but they would put these on. And here they don't have the helmet on, but they would put the helmet on like this. And this is what would keep them alive for the journey home. So if they're on the far side of the moon, it would take them about 4 days to get home. They would put them on, and they would keep them on the entire time, and they would keep them alive through that entire time. When I visited back in January, 2 months ago, we actually got a view of the spacesuit, got close-up photos and stuff of it. So how would this work? Okay, so a few systems here. How would they get air into the spacesuit? There's these little valves there that would plug in, give them air, and take out the carbon dioxide when they breathe out and all that. So they'd be good with that. They would have enough oxygen. They can also change the temperature, make it colder, make it warmer. What if they have to eat and drink during this time? They can't just take their helmet off and then suck on a Capri Sun or something like that. The suit is designed for this in mind. So on the helmet, if we look really close, there's actually a little hole on the helmet right here, a little hard to see right there. Okay, this little hole, they can actually it's a one-way hole, so they can put a straw inside of there and then be able to drink water and basically drink their food that they need in sort of paste form. You can see sort of here's like a real world example with a dummy, a mannequin, but they would be able to eat and to be able to drink that way. How would they go to the bathroom? They would have to just go inside the suit, like the right stuff, in the suit. So, I mean, if it's either that or not live. So I'm sure they're okay doing that. So that's how they would survive if there's a leak. They would probably try to patch it up if that's the case, but hopefully they don't run into that issue. Okay, let's say the mission has gone perfectly all right, okay, and they're on their way back home. They've separated from the service module here. They're going through the Earth, okay, and they splash down in the ocean, and they're supposed to splash down off the coast of San Diego, but what if they splash down on the wrong part of Earth? Okay, let's say they land, middle of the Pacific Ocean, way off base, and the crew that's supposed to rescue them isn't there, and it could take them days to find them. That's again where these suits come into play. They are colored orange, and the color is actually called, I think, International Orange or International Rescue Orange. There's a name for it, where basically countries around the world have decided this color orange is good for rescuing and finding people. So that's why it's there. And it's got a whole bunch of other features to it. It can float, I believe. And they can have some other things, deploy things outside of the suit. But they also have these orange sacks, sort of backpack-looking things. And these are survival units that are in the spacecraft with them. So this is for when they land. And inside there, they have a bunch of food and water and knives. I guess you need knives to cut things. They got like a GPS locator, signal kits, so like flares, I imagine, medical kits. All of that sort of stuff, which could last them, I don't know how many days, but a couple of days. So they have thought of that too, not just for the space stuff, but what if they land in the middle of nowhere? They've thought that through too. Last one that I'm going to do, and there's probably a zillion more I haven't thought of, but that they have. What if there's like a medical emergency on board? These are just the four. This is it. This is the entire crew. They are the only people that are able to fix one another, basically. So the four of them, I don't think any of them are actually like a licensed doctor or anything like that. But they did have to do like at least a week, maybe more, of being in a training hospital, learning to do certain activities. Certain medical things. So each of them have the ability to do stitches on another person. They've done some basic dentistry now. So if somebody has like a broken tooth, they can cap off that tooth to do it for a few days. They can intubate somebody, which I think is this is graphic, putting a tube down somebody's throat and getting air to them. Catheterization, that's like a heart thing. A lot of stuff. Okay, it's pretty crazy. So as I said, they did this at a hospital. They did training for this, okay? They're not doctors, but they've learned enough to be able to do this. And again, it's just the four of them. They're by themselves, and they have to do this all by themselves. So, yeah, a crazy amount of trust you have to have with your team to be able to do stitches or something a lot more serious. So that is really neat that they've thought all this through. Hopefully that doesn't have to happen, but they've thought it through. So that is emergencies. Yeah, they've thought it through. Speaking of thinking it through, how's the team doing? Have they thought it through? The score right now is, hey, 2-2. Hey, 12 minutes left in the second period. Not bad. If we win this, that'll be good for points-wise. All right. Second topic. second topic. And again, if you have questions, put them into the chat. I'll answer them in the Q&A. I might not answer right away, but I'll answer in the Q&A time. Space sickness. Space sickness, okay? This sounds sort of broad, okay? There's actually a specific term for this, an entire Wikipedia page, which I read probably 3 or 4 times today to get this presentation ready. It's called space adaptation syndrome, okay? This is an actual page. They have encountered this, okay? Here's the 4 crew, okay? From the left is Christina, Victor, Jeremy, and Reed, okay? And let's just start by finding out how long each of these astronauts have been in space, okay? Reed Wiseman, he's the commander, okay? He's been in space once, okay? And he has been up in space 165 days. So he's got some experience. He's been around the block. The pilot, Victor Glover, he's been in space one time as well, and he's spent 167 days in space. He just beat out the commander by a couple days, all right? So he's had, 6 months of living in space. Christina, and this one was interesting to me when I learned this one today. She's been in space once. She has the most spaceflight experience of all the crew, okay? She has 328 days living on the International Space Station. Almost a year in space. I think this is the most that one woman has done a continuous, or a single mission. So those 3 astronauts, they've been in space for many, many, many months before. Now let's talk about Jeremy, the Canadian astronaut. He has done 0 flights, and he has spent 0 days in space. We all have to start somewhere, and the starting somewhere in this one is him going to the moon. So not a bad way to start. But he hasn't been in space ever, okay? He hasn't had experienced time. He has not had the full weightlessness experience, okay? He has had some weightlessness experience. And the way that they do this is, maybe you've seen this before, okay? They're called a parabolic flight. And it's basically where they take a plane and they go up like this, and then they come down like this, okay? So they call them parabolic flights. And, here's a better diagram. And so for about 20 seconds or so, as they're coming up and just about to go down again, they feel 0 gravity, okay, or weightlessness. So inside of the plane, they get about 20 seconds to float around and do some training, do some activities and stuff like that. And they do this, oh gosh, I don't know, 20 times or so, something like that. Jeremy's done this. And he's done it actually with the other flown Canadian astronaut, David Saint Jacques, before. Okay, but this plane has a name. Okay, and you probably know it. Yep, somebody in the chat right there. It's called the Vomit Comet, because a lot of people who try it for the first time, most people, in fact, okay, it looks like it's a lot of fun, right? A lot of fun. A lot of people do vomit their first time, okay, doing the Vomit Comet. And, when we look at them, in weightlessness, it looks totally fun. Like, I was a kid and I was like, oh, I'd love to be able to do this. Weightlessness looks super fun, but the sensation is something akin to this part of the roller coaster, okay? That sort of weightlessness experience like that. So basically, these astronauts in weightlessness, when they're in space, they're feeling that sort of stomach-dropping experience the entire time that they are in space. So if you think it's fun, and I'm not trying to be a killjoy here, just keep that in mind if you're thinking about want to do weightlessness for 6 months or a year at a time, that sort of stomach-dropping feeling all the time. So people get sick, feel nauseous, okay? They call this space adaptation syndrome. This happens to like over half of astronauts that go up in space. First timers, it's a little bit more serious. I think if you've gone multiple times, you sort of kind of get used to it and you sort of find tricks and stuff like that. But even for people that have gone before, some of them that get back up there and it's not fun. What is it? Okay, you feel nauseous, you feel dizzy, you feel disoriented, you feel motion sickness. Okay, what is going on here? Okay, What causes this to happen? It's something called the vestibular system. Okay, and this is basically a part of your body. It's actually located in the ear. Okay, and this creeps me out looking at diagrams like this, seeing what's actually going on inside my ear. So I'm going to quickly just kind of go through this. But there's a part of your ear just past the eardrum called the vestibular apparatus. Okay, and it looks kind of like this, almost kind of like a snail, something like that. So inside of your ear is where the human body gets its sort of balance and orientation, all sort of set up. And so when you are in space, when you're getting those feelings of weightlessness, you have your eyes, okay, like this, and your eyes are telling you one thing, but then I would say your ears, but it's actually the system inside your ears, the vestibular system, is sensing two different things. Your vestibular system is saying something about what's going on, but your eyes are seeing something completely different. And that is what causes this sort of nauseous sort of feeling. Reading the Wikipedia page, it's a little bit different than motion sickness here on Earth. They kind of say it's like kind of the opposite. And I couldn't find kind of a way to describe that here, but I think you get the idea. Your eyes are seeing one thing, but your inner system, which tells you about balance, it's trying to do something else. You would think there would be sort of a way to predict which astronauts would be better at this than others. Astronauts that feel motion sickness in a car or seasickness, that have really bad seasickness, sometimes they go up into space and they're just fine. It's no problem for them at all. And other ones that have no seasickness or motion sickness at all, they get up there and it's just awful for them. And it's really hard to predict which astronauts it's going to be affected by. So the three astronauts, they've done this before, okay? Jeremy has zero experience. So what's he going to be doing for this? There is some types of medication out there that you can kind of take to help with this. But what they try to do is they try to recommend that astronauts not do this. They prefer natural adaptation. And if you're on the space station, they say it takes about 3 to 7 days to be able to do that. So 3 to 7 days, that's fine if your missions are very long. Okay, if you're going to be in space for 165 days, or 167 days, or 328 days, but Artemis II is not this long. Okay, Artemis II is actually a very short mission. It's only 10 days long. And so taking 3 to 7 days to adapt, that's kind of unfeasible, I think. So how's Jeremy and the rest of the crew going to adapt? Some of this is coming from memory. I thought I saw this documented somewhere, but some of this is coming a little bit from memory. But I remember Jeremy saying that after they have gotten up into orbit, some of the crew, and I think he's meaning Reed, the commander, and Victor, they'll unstrap and perhaps get out of their suits, maybe stay in the suits, but they're going to unstrap and sort of get things in place and configured and stuff like that. But I think Jeremy said he's going to sort of stay in place for a little while. I don't know how long that's going to be, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, I don't know, okay? And he's going to try to do some slow movements when he's up there to sort of get a sense of the feeling of the spacecraft and the feeling of weightlessness. And I'm sure the crew has given them some tips. So basically, he has to kind of speed run doing a natural adaptation, which would usually take 3 days to a week. And he has to do it in the first, honestly, couple of days. Not only that, he has to exercise like a few hours into the flight, something like that. So this is going to be very interesting to see how he's going to pull this off. The other thing they can do is they can put a patch onto them, a medicated patch, not a mission patch, okay? But maybe for next week, I'll start giving nicotine patches away. No, I won't. But there's children watching, Trevor. They put a medicated patch on there, which can kind of help. And they would do this because you do not want people vomiting when they're going into space, and especially you don't want them doing that when they're wearing the helmet. That's sort of a dangerous scenario. That can be fatal, especially if you are in a weightlessness environment. it collects in different ways, and you can't move it. You can't get it with your hands. So they definitely want to avoid the nauseous and vomit feeling like that. So this probably gave me more questions than answers today, but there's a few tricks that they're going to do. But I'm really curious in the first day to 3 days or so of flight, wondering how Jeremy is actually doing, and if, you know, is he going to do lots of camera time, or hey, how come we haven't seen Jeremy on camera, and he's, you know, hurling in the back or something like that. But hopefully that's not the case. So hopefully he'll be okay, and he will be able to feel all right and upright in space. So that is space sickness. And those are the 2 topics for tonight. So hopefully that was informative. You know, I should always take a sip of water in the middle of a sentence. Very professional. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that. Let's get into prize time. Okay, and then I see some great questions coming here. Great, and I can talk about some of those. So I'll definitely take those into account. Let's get into this. I want you to win this. I want you to win this Canadian Space Agency patch. This has been out in Florida, seeing the Artemis II rocket roll to the pad in January. Okay, you can see Florida just behind here. Here again, I'll give you a second here. Here is the form to fill out. You can either scan that or open up another tab or a browser window there for you. Okay, I'll put this into the chat too. So if you want to go to the URL plateauastro.com/contest, plateauastro.com/contest. There you go. And on here, and I'll actually put this into contest, plateauastro.com/contest. If you go there, what you're going to see is you are going to see this form, and there's 3 fields you got to fill out. Basically, I just need your name, your email address, and then the secret code, which I'm going to give in a second here. Okay, so plateauastro.com/contest, and the secret code for tonight, you can probably guess it. It is, I couldn't think of anything better, sick. Sick. I guess you could read that either as, oh, sick, or, oh, sick. So put that, plateauastro.com/contest, put in your name, your email address, and the secret code, which is sick. And then afterwards, I'm going to, after the show's done, about 9:30, I'll close it up. I will draw the name through my little name picker thingo, and then I'll email the person who wins. And then next week I'll announce the winner. But you will know in advance if you've won. Okay, so I'll give you a second to go to plateauastro.com/contest and put in sick for the secret code. Just quickly, if you have a question, put it into the chat and I'll answer it in a second here. Just a last thing, how you can support me. If you've enjoyed these live streams, this is number 13, and hopefully next week is the last one, number 14. It's gonna be fun. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/plateauastro if you want to give a one-time donation. It helps. It helps. If you want to support me on a monthly basis, I have a Patreon, and you can support me as low as $2.50 per month. $2.50 per month. That's nothing. That's sofa change. Okay. But probably the biggest way you can help me is if you know a school or a summer camp, especially, ask me to bring my planetarium in. Kids really love it. Teachers love it. Organizers, they super love it. And I'm doing shows tomorrow and Thursday. I'm excited to do it. plateauastro.com/planetarium. If you're on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe below. If you're on the internet anyway, there you can follow me there. I also have a newsletter where I announce each one of these and other great fun things that I'm doing. plateauastro.com/newsletter. And then just sort of general things, plateauastro.com/Artemis. So things that I've been putting there, little projects, little videos I find, I put there. And yeah, I talk and I babble on for a long time with this stuff, but if you want to hear a quick 9-minute video all about the mission, I made one there on my YouTube channel. Last thing you can do is just tell people about the mission, okay? It's surprising how many schools and parents and teachers don't know about this mission. Tell them, and it's happening in like a week, okay? Finally, last thing, if you're in Montreal, I'm doing a planetarium show plateauastro.com/workshops. This Saturday, I've got a few tickets left for the adult show and some tickets for the kids shows as well. All right, let's get into the questions, but we'll just check out the hockey. Oh, Habs are in the lead, and 2 minutes left in the period. Good, 3-2. All right, Q&A time. Give me a second. I'm just going to try to find some of these questions here. I'm just going to kind of go from the top and see some of these. Here's a good question. Is keeping the whole suit and helmet on for days part of training? That's a good question. So the context of this is if they need to have an emergency up in space, they can survive in that orange suit. And I think they can last as long as I thought it was 8 days, but I guess today I heard it was 6 days. Either way, it's a long time to live in a scuba suit, basically. I'm not sure if they've actually done 6 days of wearing the suit like that. I'm sure they've done many, many hours at a time, certainly to simulate launch and all that. I think on this mission, they're going to be in their suit for, at minimum, I want to say 6-8 hours, maybe longer than that. I actually forget. It could be 12 hours, something like that. I'm not sure if they've actually done a full, 6 days inside the suit. I think I probably would have heard that if that were the case. What about going to the bathroom again? Yeah. So I think this is probably in reference to the suit. Yeah. So if there's an emergency and they have to wear the suit, if there's a leak in the spacecraft and they're leaking oxygen or something like that, they can survive in the suit. They can eat in the suit. They'll have air coming in, pumping into the suit, and carbon dioxide being filtered out and stuff. But they would be going to the bathroom in the suit. So you can imagine what that might be. What that might be like. So, but it does survive if you will survive. So that's what you got to do. This is a good question. Why send someone to the moon with 0 flight and days in space experience? Yeah, that's a very logical question. Okay. A few months ago, I actually tried to figure out how many people went to the moon and never went to space before. And I thought it was going to be either 0, as in people had already previously flown. And it turns out during the Apollo missions in the 60s and 70s, I think it was close to, half the astronauts. So 24 men went either around the moon or on the moon. And I think half of them, it was their first time, either half or something like 8 or 10. It was a bigger number than I thought. I guess maybe the thinking is top of my head. Okay, this is the last person to go to the moon, or there are 2 people that went on the moon. Okay, his name is Harrison Schmitt, and he was not an astronaut. He was a geologist, and so his whole life was, being in the library and going out on field expeditions and looking at rocks and studying rocks and stuff like that. He was not a pilot. Was not a military test pilot or anything like that. He was a geologist. But they decided, okay, if we're going to learn about the moon, we need somebody there who knows what rocks to look for. So obviously it was his first flight. That's the first one that sort of comes to my mind of why you would need somebody who has never had any spaceflight experience. But good question, but I guess they do enough training that, whether you're going around the Earth or around the moon, they've got enough training. Not a question, but a statement. I'd never be able to be an astronaut and go to space. I get motion sick and not fun airplanes. Yeah, I would not be an astronaut either. I have a lot of anxiety whenever I fly. I need to trick my brain or maybe not trick it, but hyper educate it when I fly. It weirds me out knowing I'm 12 kilometers above the Earth, and there's I want to say nothing below me, but of course you're moving at such a speed that you're basically flying through jello. So the thing that is below you is this big sort of pocket of dense air. So either hyper-educate yourself or be afraid the entire time. Hello, Jack from Northern Ontario. Good. Other questions? Yes. Spaceport. Evening, Trevor. Canada recently announced major infrastructure spending for commercial space launch capabilities. Could you help put that historic $200 million Canadian figure into context? Yeah. And the person who's answering, they've actually done the parabolic flights. And they've actually did a painting and drawing while doing it. Hope you enjoyed Project Hail Mary. We talked online since then. Okay, what is he talking about here? So I think it was last week. I forget which branches of government and stuff did this, but basically what they want to build is a spaceport in Nova Scotia. So Canada is involved in a lot of space missions, but we actually don't launch anything into space ourselves. We either launch that mostly from the States, like SpaceX or parts of other missions, but we never launched anything from Canada. I think I had that correct. So they want to build a spaceport in Nova Scotia, and so that we would have sovereign space launch capability, basically. As far as the dollar figure, $200 million. I'm not sure if that is like a lot of money, or if it's just like an average amount or a pithy amount. It sounds like a lot of money. I could use $200. I could use $200. Yes, I could, but I could also use $200 million. I'm kind of curious where this would kind of go. There's a few, I know, student and young companies trying to, and some that have successfully launched in Canada. Those have been suborbital flights. They'll go up to, I think some of them maybe reached 100 kilometers. Maybe, I don't know exactly. But no, something to keep our eye on. This will take probably a while to actually get things actually launching. Everything takes longer in space than you realize. So it could be 10 years, 15 years before this actually sees anything launch. Why Nova Scotia? Why Nova Scotia? Why not Saskatchewan? Why not Saint Hubert, where the space agency is located? You want to ideally launch eastwardly, and you want to launch that way because of the rotation of the Earth makes it so that, and actually I'll just hide this for a second, as the Earth rotates, if you're going sort of easterly, you're getting sort of an extra kick from the Earth as you go out easterly. And also you want to be launching ideally from the coast, because then if the ship explodes or something like that, it's exploding over the ocean, and it's not exploding over populated areas. There's some places, I think in China and Kazakhstan, where they do launch not from the coast, but they're launching over areas that are unpopulated and people are mostly safe. Though China has had a really iffy, that's a long story, but we're not going to do that. Why do they have to exercise right away? So as I said, Jeremy has to exercise pretty early on in the mission. I forget if it is day one or like the first 24 hours of the mission or somewhere thereafter. A couple reasons. I think one of the first reasons is to test the sort of air conditioning system. You know, he'll be sweating in there. He's a big guy. Okay. Temperature will increase. Making sure that the temperature regulator is okay so that it stays comfortable in there. It's a small spacecraft. He would probably be producing more carbon dioxide. I hope that I'm not making that up there. So he'd be expelling a lot more carbon dioxide. So making sure that the carbon dioxide scrubbers, which clears that carbon dioxide out, would actually be working. Those are the first two that sort of pop off in my head. Other reasons he'd be working out are just for medical reasons, seeing like how heart rates go, testing the machine that he's using to work out for future missions and all that. But those would be two big ones: is heat and temperature regulation and carbon dioxide. Okay, I'm starting to go a little over time here. I'll see how many questions I got here. Let's see here. So does Jeremy have any extra specialty? So his mission title is Mission Specialist. Other people, like as I said, over the geologist from Apollo 17, he's a geologist. Jeremy will be doing, I think, just sort of they'll all be sort of doing some experiments on themselves. I think doing some blood draws, checking radiation and stuff like that, wearing different suits and stuff like that to check all that. He's doing a bunch of different experiments, taking photos, all of that. As far as a specialty, top of my head, I'm not sure if they specifically train for something special, like in the way a geologist is. And this question here. Okay, so I mentioned before, when during the flight is fatal if they throw up? Yeah. So I should rephrase this. It can be kind of fatal if somebody. So I'll give you the sort of why that might be. So if you're wearing your spacesuit and you're in weightlessness, okay, so you're in zero gravity, and you vomit, that's definitely going to go right onto the helmet. So you're not going to be able to see certain things. If there's an issue with the spacecraft and the crew needs to leave the spacecraft and you can't see, that's a big issue. You're basically not incapacitated, but you're very hindered in your ability. And so, if there's a fire or something like that, that can be very, very dangerous. Liquids move very strangely in space. They sort of collect in different ways. I forget which spacewalk this was. I think the astronaut was Italian. Parmigiani? That sounds like a cheese. Parmicetto? Again, that sounds like cheese. There's an Italian spacewalker from like 7 or 8 years ago. During a spacewalk, there was, I think, a leak in his spacesuit. And some liquid, a water or something, some sort of coolant or something like that, started pooling up around his face. And it started making these sort of globs around his face. It got into his eyes. He couldn't see. And I think it started getting around into his mouth area. This is where it starts to get a little bit fuzzy for me. It was very touch and go whether he was going to be able to get inside the space station again safely. So obviously they're not doing any spacewalks outside the spacecraft for this mission, but that is a concern. It's just having free floating liquid in a confined space and you can't like reach your hand to go and get it. They're not able to do it. So yeah. All right. I think I'll end it here. I'll just can I show my screen one last time? Yes, I can. I'll just finish up here. Show. There we go. Okay, so that's Q&A. I'll save this one for another time. Okay, will they be able to see spacecraft? I gotta end here. Okay. Okay. Next week could be the last one. Today could have been the penultimate version of this live stream, and I think I've used that word correctly. So Monday, I'm back to Monday next week, March 30th, 8 p.m. doing this. Next week is special. Let's finish off with the big bang. Okay, I have two guests, and I'm super excited about this. And I'm not doing two topics. I'm doing one topic with two guests. Okay, the topic is going to be Capcom or capsule communicator, and these are the people that talk with the astronauts as they're up in space. So I have not one, not three, but two Capcoms that actually work at NASA. And they have two different roles, and I'm super excited about this. First one, her name's Captain Erin Edwards. She's a Capcom for the astronauts that are on the International Space Station, so she talks with them. She's Canadian. And I'll take off that question because this seems incongruous. There we go. Erin's really cool. Sort of got to be sort of online friends with her the last couple of months here with the Artemis stuff, talking about space stuff. She used to be a helicopter pilot. She has been in the neutral buoyancy lab, so has been underwater where they like train astronauts to do spacewalks and stuff. Obviously worked with some of Canada's astronauts. Okay, super excited to talk with her. So she's a Capcom for the International Space Station, and I sent her some questions, and she said, "You know what? I could answer some of these questions you have about Capcoms for the Artemis missions." But she said you should talk to this person. Dr. Tess Caswell. And I think that teased us last week. We have to move it to next week. Okay. She's great too. And she's actually a Capcom for the Artemis missions. And if the mission is going to be launching on April 1st, it is super generous that they're giving their time to next Monday night to being on this. She has been doing training, underwater training, in a spacesuit, in the neutral buoyancy lab. So she helps train astronauts. And she knows how to operate Canadarm2 on the International Space Station, and I guess train some of the astronauts to do that too. So she has been working with Jenny Gibbons, who is the backup to Jeremy on this mission. So Jenny's, if she doesn't have to fly into space, she's actually going to be on console. She's going to be one of the Capcoms talking to the astronauts as they are up in space. So next week, I've just got a bunch of questions. I'm going to ask them. You should come to the chat and ask your questions too. So I'm super excited for next week. And the topic is Capcom. And I've actually already made the Facebook event and the YouTube. So I'll just put those into the chat right now. So here is the Facebook event. I've already made it. I'll put it into the chat right here. Let's do this. There we go. And I've already made the YouTube link for it right there. So it's all ready. I should have been doing this for the last many weeks, many months. You can go there. Just say you're interested or going, because you are going, right? Okay. Thanks, folks. That'll be next week, Monday, back to its regular time and date of the week. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully that'll be the last one, and the mission will go off. And yes, they're going to be the ones talking to the astronauts as they're up in space. So thank you folks so much. I'll see you next week, Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. The links are in the chat. Talk to you soon.